The voicemail sat on his phone for 3 days before he listened to it, because the number was unknown and he was 16 and he had learned not to answer numbers he did not know. When he finally pressed play, a man with a careful voice said he was calling about Miss Ada Brown, that there was a matter requiring Devon's presence, and that it concerned the will. Devon stood in the cramped kitchen of the apartment he shared with his mother and his little sister, the dish towel still in his hand, and he did not understand. He had bagged that woman's groceries every Saturday for almost 2 years. He had carried her bags to the bus stop, set them on the bench, waited with her until the number 9 came. He had never once thought she had a lawyer. He had never once thought she had anything at all. What he did not know, standing there with the water running and the towel going cold in his fist, was that the woman he had walked to the bus every week for 2 years had been watching him the entire time, and that she had decided, long before she died, exactly what she was going to do about him. He played the message again, then a third time. His mother came in and asked who it was, and he said he didn't know, which was true, and that it was about Miss Ada, which was also true. And his mother's face changed the way faces change when a name they did not expect arrives in the room. Stay with me. Because the thing Miss Ada left behind was not money, not at first, and the part that mattered was not in the envelope. Devon did not cry when he heard she had passed. He had not known she was sick. That was the part that sat in his chest like a stone for weeks after. The not knowing, the way she had come through his line one Saturday, and then simply had not come the next. And he had assumed, the way you assume about old women who ride the bus, that she had a cold or a doctor's appointment, or a daughter who had finally come to take her somewhere better. He kept her place in line in his mind for a month. Every Saturday his eyes went to the door around 11, which was when she always came, and every Saturday the door let in someone who was not her. He started bagging at the foodway on Crenshaw the summer he turned 15, because the rent had gone up $40, and his mother had said it plainly at the kitchen table, that $40 was a tank of gas, or a week of lunches, and that she did not know where it was going to come from. She had said it without drama, stirring a pot of rice while she said it, and that was the part that stayed with Devon, the flatness of it, the way a person says a thing they have already lost the energy to be afraid of. Nia had been doing homework at the same table, colouring a worksheet about the planets, and she had not looked up, and Devon had watched his mother's wrist move the spoon in slow circles, and had decided then, without announcing it, that he was going to put his own $40 on that table somehow. Devon had heard the not knowing in her voice, and he had gone the next morning, before she was even up, and walked the 6 blocks to the foodway in the grey light, and waited by the loading dock until someone with keys arrived. He asked the first grown man he saw in a store vest if they needed anyone to bag. The man pointed him inside to the manager, a tired man named Reggie who ran the front end like a man bailing a boat, sleeves rolled, pen behind his ear, 3 things going at once. Reggie looked Devon up and down and asked if he could lift 40 pounds and show up on time. Devon said yes to both. He was telling the truth about both. Reggie asked how old he was, and Devon told him, and Reggie was quiet a second and then said, "You give half to your people." And Devon said, "Yes, sir," and Reggie said, "Then we understand each other," and that was the whole interview. He made $7 and change above the minimum, because Reggie liked him, and he gave half of every cheque to his mother, and put the rest in a coffee can on the closet shelf, and he did not tell anyone what the coffee can was for, because saying it out loud felt like a way to lose it. Miss Ada came through his line the 3rd Saturday he worked. He remembered it because she was the first customer who looked at him, instead of through him. Most people looked at the belt, or their phones, or the total on the little screen, and the bagger was a pair of hands that existed below their notice. And Devon had already gotten used to that. The way you get used to a thing at 15 that you should never get used to at all. She had a cart with 8 things in it, the same 8 things. He would learn that she bought almost every week. A loaf of soft bread, a half-dozen eggs, a can of evaporated milk, 2 cans of soup, a small bag of rice, a bunch of greens, a box of tea, and one thing that changed, a small treat she allowed herself, a single peach, a candy bar, a packet of cookies she would eat slowly across 7 days. She paid in cash counted out of a coin purse with a clasp that did not quite close. Any more, the little brass nub worn smooth, and she counted it without hurry while the line waited. And Devon noticed that she did not apologize for taking her time the way old people often did not say, sorry, just 1 second, the way the world had trained them to apologize for existing slowly. She just counted what she owed and paid it. And when Devon had bagged it all the way she liked, the cans on the bottom, the bread on the top, the eggs in their own bag set upright, she had looked at the careful work of his hands and said, "Young man, you do that like it matters." He had not known what to say. No customer had ever said anything to him about the bagging, except to tell him to hurry or to complain that the bread got squashed. So he said, "It does, ma'am," and she had smiled at him like he had passed a test he did not know he was taking, and she had wheeled her cart toward the door. And Devon had watched her go, and felt, for no reason he could name, a little better about the whole long afternoon ahead of him. The bus stop was 100 yards from the foodway doors, across a parking lot that flooded when it rained and shimmered with heat when it did not. And the first time Devon carried Miss Ada's bags out there, it was because it was raining and she had no umbrella, and her hands shook a little on the cart handle. He did not ask. He just took the bags and walked her out and stood under the bus shelter with her until the 9 came. And when it came, he handed the bags up to her one at a time, so she would not have to bend. She thanked him by name, which surprised him, because he did not remember telling her his name, and then he remembered the badge pinned to his apron, the cheap plastic one that said Devon in white letters on red. And he understood she had simply read it and kept it. After that, it was every week. It decided to do it. It decided itself the way the good things sometimes do, without a meeting or a promise. Just a boy and an old woman and 100 yards of wet asphalt every Saturday at 11:15. Reggie noticed and said nothing for a month, and then said, "That's good of you." And Devon shrugged, because he did not have language for the thing that did not feel like goodness to him, that felt only like the thing a person did. His mother worked the desk at a dialysis clinic, and came home smelling of the cold disinfectant they used on the chairs. And she had raised him and his sister mostly alone since the year his father left for a job in another state and slowly stopped calling, the calls thinning from weekly to monthly, to a card at Christmas with a 20 in it and nothing at all. Devon did not talk about his father. When his sister Nia asked, because she was 9 and asked everything, their mother would say he was far away and busy, which was the kind thing to say, and Devon would catch his mother's eye over Nia's head, and they would not say the other things. They were 3 people in 2 bedrooms, and the math of the month was always a little short, and Devon had learned to read the tightness around his mother's mouth, at the end of the month the way a sailor reads weather. Miss Ada lived alone. He pieced this together slowly, across many Saturdays, from the small things she said while they waited for the 9. She had been a school teacher for 31 years, 3rd grade mostly, in a building that was not there anymore, torn down for a parking structure that served a hospital. She told him once that she still sometimes met grown men in their 40s at the bank or the pharmacy who would stop and say, "Miss Brown, you taught me," and she said it was the strangest and finest thing in the world to have a 50-year-old man tell you that you taught him to read. She had a husband once, named Walter, gone now 12 years. He had driven a city bus himself, she told Devon, which was why she still rode them, why she trusted them. Said riding the 9 was a little like being driven somewhere by Walter even now. She did not have children, and the way she said it, just once, looking down the empty road for the bus, told Devon not to ask why, so he never did. She rode the 9 because she had given up her car after Walter died, said she did not trust herself at night anymore, and the grocery was the one trip she still made on her own every week, a thing she would not surrender, the last errand that was wholly hers. Devon understood that without being told. He understood that the 100 yards to the bus was not about the bags. It was about a woman who had taught other people's children for 31 years, and now rode the bus alone, and a boy who walked beside her. So that for 15 minutes a week she was not alone. He never said that either. Some things you only ruin by saying them. They talked about small things, mostly. The weather, which greens were freshest that week, whether the soup was on sale. She asked about his sister, and he told her about Nia, that she was 9 and asked everything and wanted to be an astronaut, and Miss Ada had said the world needed people who looked up. And Devon had not known then that she was writing the name down somewhere, keeping it. One Saturday she pressed a folded bill into his hand at the bus door, of 5, and he gave it back. He said, "No, ma'am, I'm not carrying them for that." She looked at him a long moment and put the 5 away and never offered money again. And Devon understood later that he had passed another test, a bigger one, though at the time it only felt like the truth, which was that taking her money would have made the 100 yards into a job. And it was not a job. It was the best part of his week, and he would not have traded it for $5 or 50. Here's a question for you, before the story turns, and I want you to sit with it. Who is the person in your life who saw you when no one else was looking? Hold their face for a second. Then come back, because Devon is about to learn that he was being seen too. The seasons turned the way they do. Devon kept bagging. The coffee can in the closet filled slowly toward a number he had set in his mind, the cost of the application fees, and the deposit for the trade program at the community college, the welding certificate that Reggie had told him about that paid, that travelled, that no robot was taking any time soon. He did not tell his mother about the can because telling her felt like a way to disappoint her if it did not work out. He told Miss Ada, though. He did not plan to. It came out one rainy Saturday under the bus shelter while they waited. The welding and the certificate and the can in the closet, and Miss Ada listened the way she listened to everything, fully, with her whole tired face. And when he was done, she said, "You are going to be a man people can count on, Devon. Anyone can see it." And the bus came, and she did not say anything else. But Devon carried that sentence around for a week like a warm coin in his pocket. Across the city, in an office on the 8th floor of a building Devon had never been inside, a lawyer named Marcus had a folder on his desk with Miss Ada's name on it, and in that folder was a letter she had written by hand, and a set of instructions she had given him in person 2 years before she died. Instructions he had found unusual at the time and had said so, and Miss Ada had told him plainly that she knew exactly what she was doing, and that he was to do it precisely as written when the time came. Marcus had handled a great many estates in his years, and most of them went the way you would expect, to children and grandchildren, to the people the law would have given the money to anyway, and the work was mostly paperwork and patience and the management of grief. Miss Ada's was the first he could remember, where a woman of real means meant to leave the bulk of it to a teenager she knew only from a grocery line. And he had asked her, carefully, sitting where Devon would one day sit, whether she had family who might contest it. And she had said she had a cousin in another state who had not called in 9 years and would be welcome to call now if he liked the sound of a lawsuit he would lose. Marcus had asked her gently whether she wanted to meet the young man first, properly, off the clock, to be sure. She had said she had been meeting him every Saturday for months, and that she was already sure, and that the surest things in life were the ones you watched a person do when they thought no one important was looking. What Marcus did not yet know, sliding that folder back into the drawer, was how long Miss Ada would live after that, and how many more Saturdays the boy would walk her to the bus without any idea what was waiting, and that he, Marcus, would come to look forward to her appointments. The only client he had who brought him peppermints from her coin purse and asked about his own children by name. She lived 2 more years. 2 more years of Saturdays. 2 more years of cans on the bottom and bread on the top and the eggs upright in their own bag. And in those 2 years Miss Ada did a thing Devon never knew about, a thing that is the reason for everything that came after. She watched. She watched the way he counted back change to the old men who came in confused, slow and patient, never embarrassing them. There was one old man in particular, a thin man in a fishing cap, who came every Friday and put his bills and coins on the belt in a little pile, and looked at them like they were a language he was forgetting. And Devon would come around the register and stand beside him, not in front of him, and say, "Here, let's count it together, sir," and walk through it dollar by dollar until the man's face cleared. and the man would leave taller than he came in, and Miss Ada saw that every time. She watched the Saturday he gave his own lunch, a sandwich from home in a paper bag, to a man who came through the line short on a loaf of bread. The man had counted his change twice and come up short and started, quietly, to put the bread back, and Devon had said, "Hold on," and waved the man on, and quietly covered the difference from his own apron pocket, the few coins he kept for the bus. And then, at his break, he had eaten nothing, and said nothing to anyone, and Miss Ada, 2 lines over with her 8 things, had watched a 15-year-old boy go hungry, so a stranger would not have to put back his bread, and had to look out the window for a moment to gather herself. She watched him stand up once, quietly, when a woman 2 lines over was being talked down to by a man in a suit who did not like waiting. The man had said something about people who could not manage their cards, said it loud, for the line to hear, and the woman's face had gone tight and small, and Devon had walked over before anyone else moved, and offered to take her groceries to her car. Himself not making a scene, not looking at the man in the suit at all, just removing her from the moment, carrying her bags out into the sun and walking her to her car and telling her on the way that she had not done anything wrong, and she had not, and Miss Ada had thought, sitting in her line with her 8 things, that the world did not deserve a boy like that, and had better learn to. She wrote some of this down that same week at her kitchen table, in the careful slanting hand she had used to write 3 decades of report cards, under a lamp with a bulb she did not replace until it burned out. The letter in Marcus's folder grew over those 2 years, from 1 page to 4, a Saturday at a time. Then the Saturdays stopped. There was no warning. There never is. She came through his line on a Saturday in March with her 8 things and her 1 small treat, a single orange that week, and he bagged it the way she liked and walked her to the 9 and handed the bags up one at a time, and she said, "See you Saturday, Devon," the way she always did, and he said, "See you Saturday, Miss Ada," and the bus pulled away, and that was the last time he saw her. The next Saturday she did not come. He told himself it was a cold. The Saturday after that he asked Reggie if anyone had seen the old woman who rode the 9, and Reggie said he hadn't, and something in Devon went quiet and watchful. He did not have her address, he did not have a phone number. He realized, standing at his register, that for 2 years he had known the inside of this woman's life, and not one fact that would let him find her, and the helplessness of that sat in him all afternoon. He kept watching the door at 11, for a month. Then the voicemail came. Devon went to the office on the 8th floor on a Tuesday after school, in his good shirt, which was his only collared shirt, the one he wore to his cousin's funeral 2 years back. It was a size too small in the shoulders now, and he had not noticed until he buttoned it that, morning in the bathroom mirror, the boy in the glass already bigger than the one who had bought it. His mother came with him because he was 16, and the message had said the matter concerned a minor, and she sat beside him in the waiting room with her purse on her knees and her clinic badge still clipped to her collar, because she had come straight from her shift, and she kept smoothing the same wrinkle on her skirt with the flat of her hand, a thing she did when she was bracing for bad news, because in her experience a call from a lawyer was never good, and a call about money was usually worse. The waiting room had a leather couch and a coffee table with a glass top and a view, and his mother sat on the edge of the couch like it might charge her for the time. When Marcus came out, he was younger than his voice and kinder, and he shook Devon's hand like Devon was a person and not a kid, and he shook his mother's hand too and called her ma'am, and something in her shoulders came down 1/2 inch. He took them into a room with a long table and a window that looked out over the whole flat, grey sprawl of the city. He offered them water. Devon's mother said no thank you, and Devon said yes please, because his mouth had gone dry, and Marcus poured it himself from a pitcher and set it in front of Devon, and then he sat down across from them and folded his hands on the folder and did not open it right away. He told them, first, that Miss Ada had passed in her sleep, at home the 3rd week of March, that it had been peaceful, that a neighbour had found her when the morning paper piled up on the step, and that she had left clear instructions for everything. including that there to be no fuss, no service, no obituary beyond the smallest notice. He told them she had been ill for some time, and had told almost no one, because she did not want to be treated like a dying woman in her last good months. She had wanted, he said, to keep doing her own grocery shopping for as long as she could. Marcus said that last part looking directly at Devon, because Miss Ada had told him about the grocery shopping, and about the boy, and he had been waiting 2 years to put the two together in a room. Devon understood then why she had never said. He understood that the last good thing she had wanted in this world was a boy who walked her to the bus, and did not know he was walking a dying woman, anywhere, who treated her like a person with all the Saturdays in the world. His throat closed. His mother put her hand on his back. Marcus opened the folder. He said that Miss Ada had named Devon in her will, and that before he read the legal language, she had asked him to read something else first, and he took out 4 pages covered in a careful slanting hand, and he read them aloud. The letter was to Devon. It said that she had spent 31 years teaching children to be good, and had retired believing the lesson did not take, as often as a teacher hoped, and that she had been wrong, and that he was the proof. It said she had watched him give his lunch away, and cover a stranger's bread, and stand up quietly for a woman being talked down to, and that he had never once known she was watching, which was how she knew it was real. It said that she had no children of her own, that Walter and she had wanted them and it had not come, and that she had made her peace with leaving the world without passing anything to anyone, until a boy at a grocery store had bagged her cans on the bottom and her bread on the top and walked her to the bus in the rain, for no reason at all, except that she should not have to do it alone. It said, "You gave me back something I thought I had lost," which was the belief that the next ones was coming up would be all right. It said, "So I am going to do for you what I would have done for a son." Marcus set the pages down. The room was very quiet. Then he read the rest. Miss Ada had not been poor. She had only lived as though money were a thing you did not waste. The habit of a woman who taught school through lean decades and buried a husband and learned to make 8 things last a week. The house she lived in, the small one on a street of small ones, she had owned outright for 40 years. Paid off the year Devon's mother was born, and it was worth, in the market that had crept across the city, a number that made Devon's mother's hand tighten on his back, a number neither of them had ever said out loud in connection with anything they might one day own. There was the house. There were savings, careful and patient, 3 decades of a teacher's prudence. Never a year she did not put something away, even the lean years, especially the lean years. And there was a fund, Marcus explained, that Miss Ada had set up specifically 2 years before, the same spring she first watched Devon give his lunch away, with instructions she had dictated to him across this very table. The bulk of the estate was placed in trust for Devon's education. Every level of it, the welding certificate first if that was still what he wanted, and then whatever came after if he wanted more, college, anything, the trust would carry it. And there was a line in the instructions, Marcus said, that she had insisted on, that the boy was never to take out a loan for his schooling, as long as the trust had $1 in it, because she had taught children who spent 30 years paying for the chance to learn, and she would not have it for this one. The house was to be sold, and the proceeds were to go to his mother, named directly by her full name, which Miss Ada had also remembered and written down, so that the woman who had raised a son like this would not clip coupons another day of her life. Miss Ada's words, read aloud by Marcus in that quiet room while Devon's mother began, silently, to one hand pressed flat over her mouth, the clinic badge still on her collar. And there was one more thing, a smaller account, modest, a few $1,000s, left to Naya. The little sister Devon had mentioned once under the bus shelter, the astronaut, whose name Miss Ada had remembered and written down, with a note that every child should know that a stranger somewhere was glad they existed, and a second line, that this money was for something that made her look up, not something practical, that the practical things would take care of themselves. Devon did not say anything for a long time. He was 16, and he did not have the words, and he did not try to find them. He put his face in his hands at the long table on the 8th floor, and he cried the way you cry when grief and gratitude arrive in the same breath. And you cannot tell them apart, and his mother held him, and Marcus looked out the window and gave them the room. When Devon could speak, he asked the only thing he wanted to know, which was not about the house or the trust or the money. He asked where she was buried. Marcus told him. That Saturday, instead of the Foodway, Devon took the 9. He rode it all the way to the end of the line the way Miss Ada had every week, and he saw the city the way she had seen it, slow from a window, the laundromats and the check-cashing places, and the churches with hand-painted signs, the bus sighing down at every stop and rising again, the people getting on with their own small, careful carts and bags, and he understood for the first time that this had been her whole world out the window every Saturday, that she had ridden through all of it alone for years, until a boy started walking her the last 100 yards. He walked from the last stop to the cemetery with a single orange in his jacket pocket because he could not afford flowers and would not have wanted to bring flowers anyway. The cemetery was on a low hill and the grass was patchy, and the wind came across it without anything to stop it. And Devon walked the rows reading names until he found her stone. It was small and plain, the way she would have wanted. Her name and Walter's beside hers, and the years, the granite still raw and new, compared to the weathered stones around it. Devon stood over it and did not know what to do with his hands. Then he took the orange out of his pocket and set it on the granite ledge at the base of the stone, the way he used to set her bags upright so the eggs would not break, careful, like it mattered. He did not pray out loud because he did not know how, but he stood there a long time while the wind moved over the hill, and he said quietly, "See you Saturday, Miss Ada," the way he had said it 100 times, because it was the only goodbye he had, and because it was not really a goodbye, and he knew it. He went back the next Saturday, and the one after. The orange became a small standing thing, his version of her 8 items, a faithful weekly act with no one watching, which was the only kind she had ever trusted. Devon got the welding certificate that next year, the trust paying the fees he had been filling a coffee can for 1/2 check at a time, and the coffee can he kept anyway, up on the closet shelf, empty now because some things you keep for what they meant. His mother left the dialysis clinic the following spring, not because she was lazy, she was never that, but because the house had sold for a number that let her breathe, and she took a year and then went back to school herself for the nursing degree she'd had set down 20 years before when Devon was the textbooks at the kitchen table now, instead of the rice pot, the same table, the same flat of her hand, smoothing the page, and she walked across a stage at 44 in a gown with Nia and Devon in the third. Row clapping until their hands hurt, and afterward, in the parking lot, she had held the diploma against her chest and said, only one name, Ada. The way you say a name in thanks when the person is not there to hear it. Nia kept her small account untouched for years. The way a person guards a thing that means more than its number, and when she was old enough, she used a little of it to take herself to the ocean for, the first time, a thing that made her look up, and she stood in the cold water and thought about an old woman she had never met who had written her name on a piece of paper and been glad she existed. Devon worked. He was good at it, the welding, good the way Reggie had seen he would be, careful and on time and trusted. And Reggie, who came to Devon's certificate ceremony in his one good jacket, told him afterward that he had known the first morning by the loading dock the way the boy waited. And Devon travelled with the trade the way the certificate had promised, bridges and towers and the long bright seams of things that had to hold. And every job he took in every city, the first Saturday he was there, he found a grocery store. And he watched for the old people who came through alone with their small, careful carts, and he carried their bags to their cars. And he never took $1 for it. And when they asked why, he said only, "Somebody did it for me once." He never told them the whole of it. Some things you only keep by not spending them. Years later, a married man with a daughter of his own, Devon stood in a kitchen that was his, in a house that was his, and his little girl asked him about the empty coffee can on the high shelf that he would not let anyone throw away. And he lifted her up so she could see it, and he told her about a woman named Miss Ada who rode the bus, who bought 8 things every week and one small treaty. who had watched a boy when he did not know he was being watched and had decided, quietly, to change his whole life because he walked her 100 yards in the rain. His daughter asked if Miss Ada was rich. Devon thought about the coin purse with the clasp that did not close, and the cash counted out slow, and the 4 pages in a careful slanting hand. He said she was the richest person I ever knew, and she gave all of it away. On the shelf, beside the can, sat a single orange, the way one always did now, in every house he ever lived in, replaced when it withered, never absent, a small faithful weekly thing for a woman who had taught him that the quiet good you do when no one is watching is exactly the thing the world remembers and returns when you least expect it and most need it to. If someone walked 100 yards with you once, in the rain, when they did not have to, I hope you tell them while you still can. And if this story sat with you, there is another like it waiting, about a different kind of kindness that came back around when no one thought anyone had noticed. He never did learn how she knew his sister's name. He decided in the end that she had simply listened, the way she listened to everything fully, with her whole tired face, on a bench at a bus stop, on 100 ordinary Saturdays that turned out to be the most important of his life.